Let's welcome our next speaker, Praveen Venugopal, an e-commerce technologist at DCKAP. With his expertise, Praveen has helped customers by putting together requirements, draft resolution, requirement documents, and has helped deliver results for a diverse set of customers. Praveen has experience working on leading e-commerce platforms like Magneto, Shopify, and BigCommerce. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Praveen Venugopal.
Good morning, guys. How are you guys doing today? Had a good break? Did a lot of networking? Yeah, hope you guys are having some fun. So Chris gave a quick intro about myself. Just to give you a little more context about myself, right? So I'm Praveen, and I work as a project manager and an e-commerce expert at DCKAP. And prior to working with DCKAP, so I've been with Amazon for over 7 years. I think that's a short gist about myself. So with respect to today's topic, so what we are going to see today is more of looking at taking a holistic approach, right? So there is going to be e-commerce, and we spoke about integrations, and there is FlexiPIM or the PIM solution, which we spoke about a bit. So I think we are going to see on how all of this is going to blend together, and we are also going to look at DCKAP's overall solution for this. So by raise of hands, can you show how many of you are directly or indirectly involved with an e-commerce store? That's a good number. I think that's maybe around 80% of the crowd, which is good. So today what we're going to do is, so even before I get on to the products that we have in place, so we will quickly look into a case study right now, and we'll see on how we were kind of going about stuff, right? So does this client name ring a bell for you guys? No? I think Karthik mentioned this in his keynote, so I just wanted to check. Story. So MDS HVAC has been more on the HVAC and refrigeration business, and they were having more of an offline presence, and they were pretty much having orders via making calls, or in fact, they have orders where one of the customers comes into one of the three warehouses that they have, and then they place orders. And then all of the processing happens, and then end of the day, I think they get the receipts and all of that, right? So I think that has been pretty much the model that they were having. And that is when they came over to DCKAP, and these were some of the major challenges or opportunities that they wanted to kind of address as part of the solution. So the first challenge that they wanted to kind of address was round-the-clock sales. I think with respect to their business, I think they were just limited to whatever business timings was already available in place, right? So it's an 8 to 5, and they had a lot of customers who wanted to kind of place orders, but they were kind of losing business just because of that particular reason, right? So that is one thing they wanted to kind of sort. And the next is on multi-inventory management. So as I spoke, so they have 3 different inventories. But then how do they automate that and make sure they are making intelligent sourcing of inventory? So I think that is one other thing they wanted to kind of look into. And multi-channel experience. So I think they wanted to provide an experience where customers could interact with the website as well as with their store, right? Maybe they could place an order on the website, and they would want to allow for a store pickup, right? I think that's the experience they were looking at, and that is something which was working for them as well. So that is something which they were kind of looking at. And with respect to personalized experience, so yeah, I think Mohan spoke about Productimize and how it could help, but then personalization is a lot more than that, right? So it could be how you're catering to each of your customers. It could be, yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah. And with respect to personalized experience, it could be more than that, right? In terms of how they are able to kind of see different user experiences for different sets of users. So that is one of the personalized experience. Or it could be maybe on your offline store, you have a contracted pricing for a customer, but then you would want to show that particular pricing for your customers on the website so that it is consistent. So that is one other thing. And before I go on to the last one, so do you guys have any guesses on what could be one other thing they would have wanted to do? One key thing, why you really run business? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, increase in revenue. So I think that is what they really wanted to do as part of the overall solution. And here you would see these are the results that we could achieve, right? So there was a 50% increase in their overall revenue just within a year. So I think that has been a huge increase with respect to what they were looking for, and it has been a huge turnaround for them. And now let us look on how we kind of got on to achieve this. So the first is on an intuitive user experience. So an intuitive user experience need not be having a fancy website and doing a lot of stuff. Maybe it could be cluttering the site in some ways, or maybe you're providing a good user experience, but then that's not what your customer really wants, right? So intuitive user experience could also be stuff like customers able to navigate through what the products and find the products they want to see, navigate through the categories, and having a conversational experience. So I think this is one of the most important things that we address as part of the initial solution. And then I think we have all heard about content marketing. But then I think what we were stressing over here is more of a conversational marketing than content marketing. So which means that you kind of interact with the customers over here. So the customers look at your website and they're able to make that connect with you. So again, with an offline business, I think it is easier, right? So I think the conversation is what drives your business. But then how do you bring that online? I think that's what we were looking at in terms of kind of having the connection with the customers. So maybe it could be even requesting for a quote, for example. So they could request for a quote, but then again, it shouldn't be just left over there, right? A customer would ask for a negotiated pricing. Then you come back. Then you again go back. So I think it's a longer conversation than that, right? I think that is one of the things which we were trying to attack in here. And the next thing is some of the end-user targeted features in terms of understanding what their customers really wanted, and then kind of providing a solution in a way that it helps their customers. We'll also see some of the features that we had implemented which had helped them increase their revenue. And the next item is on a tightly integrated, tightly coupled integration. So this is more with Chorus, which I'll talk in a bit, but then I wanted to kind of really give you the a complete picture, right? With respect to the integrated experience, so here there are multiple pieces, right? You might have an ERP, you might have an e-commerce system, and then you could have a CRM, you could have a PIM. I think the integrated experience is what people generally look at. And in case if one of these systems are inconsistent, I think even Mark was talking about it, right? So I think if it's inconsistent between systems, and if you're providing different data from different systems, and customers could get confused and they might lose trust on your brand, right? So I think that is really critical. Yeah, so this is, and the last one is training end customers. I think Karthik touched upon it, so I would jump from here. Yeah, so now we'll talk about how e-commerce can be an enabler for your customers. So here we'll talk about some of the key features that we had implemented for this particular customer and how that had an integrated experience for them. So the first is on the customer registration. So I think this sounds one of the basic stuff, right? So you create a username, password, they get onto it. But then that might not work for all of the B2B businesses, right? Some of them would already have a customer. And I think there are a lot more things that you would want to kind of ensure before they could create an account. I think that's what we were trying to cater here. If you could see over here, so I think even within the registration page, we have some of the other things which we are capturing here. I think they could apply for tax exemption, even as part of the registration. So I think they could upload their certificates and all of that. And a customer rep could basically validate that and then approve them on the system. And then applying for credit is more in terms of, so with some of the B2B businesses, I think credit line is very critical. But then providing it on e-commerce is sometimes challenging. So I think that is one thing which we wanted to kind of help them with. And the next one is on PO. I think generally, I think credit card methods are there, but then there are a lot more payment options that you could leverage today. It could be maybe an integration with Amazon Pay, or it could be Apple Pay, or it could be a lot more things. But then for their business, I think this was critical. And then the last one is making sure they're able to link their existing customers on the website so that, again, as I was talking to you, so the integrated experience is really critical. So again, if they're able to see whatever orders they have placed offline, right? And if they're able to see that on the website, I think that helps them a lot. So I think that's what we are trying to accomplish. Maybe try to pay up all of their invoices from here, whatever they did it over there. I think that's what we are trying to address here. And the next is request for quote. I think we spoke about it. So I think it is more of having a conversation, multiple conversations back and forth, and then freezing at a price point, and then placing an order, all from the website, yeah. Yeah, so this is more in terms of how we had done that. So product availability by warehouse. I think there are multiple ways you could kind of tackle this. So one of the ways I would say is where you could intelligently source data based on the distance. You could have the Google Maps and find out the closest warehouse. And there is also a lot more to it, right? Maybe if you have 8 quantities on one warehouse and maybe 12 on the other, and the 8 could be closer to you, but then if he's ordering for 10, then you will have to go to the other one. So I think these are the things which has to be taken into account. But with respect to this particular account, what we had done is we had given that onus onto the customers in some ways. That's how they wanted to go about it. So here what we do is we let them know what is available in stock for each of these locations. And as you see this, all of this is coming in real time from the ERP, which is more of a centralized source of truth. And we are bringing it all up over here so that they are able to see in real time. And that way, we are making sure that there isn't any situations where they are running out of stock, right? So I think that is one thing which they have done over here. And the next is on opening up to other payment methods. So we spoke about this on credit. So here, I think, again, when they apply for credit, it goes to P21, which was their ERP. And then from that, they would kind of make sure that they are able to approve the credit for whatever amount they have requested for, and then bring that back over here. And then they could make purchases for whatever limit which they have. So, and the next item is on gaining control over delivery. So we spoke about this. So in terms of making sure that they are able to pick up from the store, even while they place the order from the website. I think that's what we see over here. So as you could see, they could pick up, they could also set the slots from which they want to kind of buy these products. So this also gives them the flexibility on setting up times which works for them, and then allowing the customers to do that. So this is more of making them place an order, and then it is more of a pickup that they do. And this was one other thing, right? So they have a lot of payments which is offline, and they wanted to make sure that the customers are able to pay that online, because some of the customers would like to do that, but they don't have the convenience of doing that. So sometimes it has to go via ACH, checks, or any of these payment modes. It's also kind of hard for them to track and for you to track. So you also have the option to pay it based on your terms, right? It could be 30, 60, or 90 days. Or it could be based on whatever invoices you select, as you could see from here. So based on this case study, right, I think these are some of the key takeaways, I would say. So the first thing is, I think it is really critical that you should be tapping into the true potential of a business. So we are sometimes limited to seeing that this is what we can accomplish out of the business, but then we could do a lot more out of the business. So actually, if you look at it, so you might be thinking that these are the features that my customers really want, but then whatever your customers want could be totally different. But then, again, basically what MDS HVAC was doing in this particular case was they were trying to do surveys with the customers and understand on what they really want, and then get back and see on what has to be implemented on the e-commerce side of things. And we spoke about the intuitive design. So it is also critical to keep things simple, right? So rather than trying to complicate stuff and trying to provide a lot of things, I think it is ideal that you kind of keep it simple and then iterate over a period of time. You understand user behaviors more, and then you could iterate over a period of time. And this is something, as I discussed, I think having a consistent conversation is very critical, because if you really look at it, so if I'm communicating something on the website and if I'm communicating something else on the offline mode, I think it is not going to help. So having that conversation is really helpful. So I think in one of the slides we saw that, I think with respect to customers, I think 90% of the customers, I think that is what they really want, and that's what we should be providing. And the last one is on low effort experience. I think Karthik also touched upon it in terms of the low effort experience. The low effort experience is more in terms of making sure they are able to do things seamlessly, right? I think that is when an integrated or a fully blown solution is really required. So I think these are the key takeaways on a high level. So yeah, I think the last one was training your customers, yeah. And this is, again, I think this was a solution. So I'm just going on to our product suite right now and their capabilities. So with respect to Chorus, this is DCKAP's integration product. So we came up with the product 3 years back. So this is basically with our expertise more on the integration space. So we had done over 50 integrations prior to developing Chorus. And there are a couple of things which was consistently coming from customers, right? So one thing was, I think there was too much of developer dependency, specifically on the integrations. That is something which we wanted to eliminate or bring down. And the other thing is in terms of making sure that whatever integration is happening is seamless, or it is reliable enough. Because what happens is that there tends to be a data loss as you really go into the integration part of things, where I think you try to transfer some data between one system to the other system, but then it doesn't happen that way, right? Sometimes it gets lost. So that is what Chorus tries to accomplish in here. I think on a high level, these are some of the features of Chorus. You will also see a short video of Chorus in a bit. I think with respect to seamless integration, we spoke about the secure transactions. We are PCI compliant. We don't store any of the data on our systems. So that way, you need not worry about the security of the data within Chorus. And you have real-time and automated. Automated is more in terms of you could define within Chorus on what frequency your integration needs to happen. And maybe in your peak seasons, or you could definitely go back and say, I would want to do these integrations maybe once in a hour, versus once in maybe 8 hours, which you were doing earlier. Or it could be real time. Maybe for some of your customers, maybe pricing would be real time, which needs to be coming in from the ERP or any of the systems. So that's what we are trying to address from here. And this is going to be more of a plug and play solution, right? So it's basically a platform agnostic solution, which means that it is not dependent, or we need not really code something for a particular platform. It can be BigCommerce or Shopify or Magento for that case on the e-commerce, or it could be Oracle, SAP, or DDI, or it could be P21. It could be multiple platforms, right? It's a platform agnostic solution. And you also have the bird's eye view metrics in terms of what was the success and failure rates and personalized notifications. This goes beyond Chorus in some ways. So where in case if your thresholds are going below a particular, or in case your inventory is going below a particular threshold, you could pretty much send out an email to your customer support saying that this is what is the scenario, and they could source inventory. So I think that is one other thing. And advanced logging helps you to understand why an integration didn't happen and then troubleshoot it. For example, it could be maybe you are having something mandatory on e-commerce while it is optional here. So I think it gives you some insights which helps you to troubleshoot stuff. And advanced mapping and modifiers, I think this is one of the key features which kind of differentiates us from our competitors. It gives you complete control over what you can kind of map data, right? So for example, as you would have seen in one of the videos, I think if there is a first name and a last name, you could pretty much map all of that within Chorus, and you need not depend on a developer, right? You could do it all of your own. So I think that's the core intent of having the advanced mapping. And modifiers helps you to manipulate data. So I think that's also very critical in during integration. So maybe I think that could be different data. For example, Arizona could have AZ as code over there, but then you want it as Arizona displayed over here. So you could do all of that logic within Chorus. So that way, I think it gives you a lot more control. It could do a lot more than what I have been talking about. So hope you guys got some insights from the video on what you could leverage from Chorus. One thing which maybe I missed was on the data flows, but then it might be critical more for the developers. But then what we are also doing is building an ecosystem around Chorus. We are building an ecosystem of developers around Chorus so people can come over and code with ease. So I think that's one of the core intentions as such. So that is more on Chorus. So just moving on to the next product. So I think this is one of the stats. So I saw that on one of the other slides as well. So I think with respect to product content, in case the product content is not consistent across platforms, so then it becomes a problem in making for the end customers to make purchase decisions, right? In case, because you think about it, right? So in case you are going to a web store and you're finding some data and you're finding a different price, but then while you're calling up the customer support, you find a different price. Again, you kind of lose trust. And it also depends on some of the product content that you really give, right? So it could be you explain a product in a different way via the descriptions and all of that. But then if it is not aligning to some of the other platforms that you kind of do, so maybe you're also doing it on Amazon. So those are the scenarios where it could have a hit. So this is our PIM solution, and this is FlexiPIM. And yeah, so as Karthik mentioned, so we kind of launched it early this year. And I think we had this in March. During the IDS event that we had. That's when we launched this product, and we are seeing a lot of traction over here of late. So the first thing over here is on data quality. With respect to data quality, I think data quality is really critical because I think the stats really say about it, right? So if you have a really good product content, I think it helps even with your reviews and all of that, right? So in case if you don't have a really consistent product content across channels and all of that, again, it starts impacting your reviews and it starts impacting your brand as a whole. So I think these are some of the after effects. So otherwise, I think you need to be really careful in making sure that it is consistent. So I think FlexiPIM kind of makes sure that it is automated. And the next is on asset management. Asset management is a lot of things, right? So I think with respect to product content, for each product, there could be multiple assets associated with the product. And the other thing is, In your case, that could be multiple other assets that you would want to kind of store and reuse it. So that is also one other case. Let me also give you one other use case, right? So I think you have an image which could be 1 gigs, so which is of a high quality image that you're having, but that's not what you're going to put on the website. So what FlexiPIM also helps is, so it also helps you to automatically resize. So you can tell for these form factors, this is the size that I want, or this is the resolution I want, and FlexiPIM automatically resizes it based on whatever channels that you have. It could be Amazon, it could be a point of sales solution, or multiple channels that you have in place. The next is on bulk import and export. So I think this is pretty straightforward. So it is more of making bulk edits via a spreadsheet, right? But then one big advantage you have here is, with respect to a lot of other platforms, you're kind of constrained to whatever template they have. But here with FlexiPIM, you are able to define your own templates, and you can define your own fields and put it in there. So that way it makes it easier for you. Okay, and the next is on the multi-channel integration. So with respect to multi-channel integration, so as I was talking about it, so I think if there are multiple channels as a POS, or maybe an e-commerce system, or it could be Amazon, so you know that there is going to be certain content which is going to be necessary for certain channels. You could define all of that from here, and you could also define on what attributes would be available for all of these channels. So I think that is what we intend to do over here. And 360-degree product information. So this is with respect to making sure you have a website, and you get some data from the website, and then you have a POS channel, you get some data from the website, and then you are able to look at all of this data and slice and dice this data, and that also gives you insightful dashboards within FlexiPIM. So that way you're able to make intelligent decisions and on making sure on what is it that you need to be doing with this product. That could be some of the products that are selling well on some channels, while it is not selling well on the others, while some of them are selling well on everything, and some of them are selling well during season. So I think there are a lot of insights that you could pretty much take out of this. So, and the next is pretty straightforward in terms of multi-level categories. So you could have multiple levels of categories that could be applicable for your e-commerce system. So you could just integrate that, and in case if you have another channel, you could have a different category structure for that, because that's how it is, right? Because for different channels, you would want to categorize in a different way. And with respect to multi-language support, there are a couple of use cases here. One of the use cases I would say is you have a complete UI where all the menus and everything is on a different language, so that I think if somebody in French is kind of getting into the website, he sees everything in French, and he's able to navigate through that. So that is one part of it. And the other is multi-catalog support. I think that is what might be little more required for the crowd in here. So this is more in terms of if you have multiple stores with different languages, you could still manage it from maybe an English FlexiPIM site, but then you could have content for each of these stores within your website. So now let's see a short video on FlexiPIM.
Is your company handling a massive load of products? Do you still manage product data with Excel sheets, basic ERP, or any other traditional methods? Are you finding it difficult to manage product content, images, videos, translations, attributes, and more? Are you looking for marketing information for promotional purposes? Have you ever felt maintaining product data is taking too much of your time? A single place to collect, manage, and enrich your product information. No matter how vast or complex your product database is, maintain every product data with FlexiPIM, best-in-class product information management solution for merchants. With FlexiPIM, you can create and categorize product data. Enrich product descriptions. Link images and documents to products. easily bulk import, export, and edit product data. Map custom product fields and import using flexible import. Manage multi-language catalogs. Find everything in one place. Manage all your product data in one place with FlexiPIM.
So I hope you were able to visualize whatever I was talking about some time back. So were you able to get an idea of what this could leverage? Yeah? Okay. So this was the holistic approach that I was talking about, right? So having an integration platform in between an e-commerce system and then an ERP or a CRM and then a PIM, I think having everything integrated, I think that's what we are kind of proposing in here. And this is something which will also help automate a lot of your business pain points. So I think this is all I have for the session today. So do you guys have any questions so far? Anything on integrations? Anything on the product information management?
Yeah, the question I have is integrating products too with Amazon. Amazon has ASINs. They are very, so do you have a way to find the specific ASIN for each SKU item or part number?
Yeah.
Easily without, because we have, when you have thousands of products to do at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great question, right? With respect to Amazon integration, if you really look at it, I think that's where the mapping and modifiers comes into real play. I think that's what we really leverage. So we can do multiple ways, right? So one thing is you kind of really understand on what are the SKUs and what are the ASINs, and then we could map them in. Or the other approach is you know that it's going to follow a pattern. So Chorus can read patterns and then accordingly map SKUs as well. So it depends on what data you have, but then it's definitely feasible. And yeah, we could work with millions of product data as well. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Not quite sure.
Okay. So what I was basically saying was that in terms of the integration, right? So if with respect to the Amazon marketplace, if you look at it, you have ASINs. So ASINs are going to be similar to SKUs on a website or on an ERP. Yeah. So what we are basically going to do is, with respect to the mapping, as you're seeing over here, right? I think we are going to have that mapping working for all of these systems. So that way, I think this particular ASIN is going to be associated with this particular SKU. So I think the mapping is all managed within the product itself. I think that's what I was saying. Does that still answer, or is there a or do you want to put it in a different way?
I'll talk with you more about it later.
Yeah, so I'd be on the booth over here. Yeah, for sure, we can discuss more about that as well, yeah. Sure, I think that's all that I had then. So thanks a lot for your time, and it was a pleasure meeting you all and talking to you this morning, yeah.